become a product of probably the closest 4 or 5 people you spend your time with. You end up being a product of the people you surround yourself with. So always try and surround yourself with positive, like-minded people that are, want to be on a journey or on their own journey or want to be part of our journey to make that self-belief. But you've got to have a good network around you that, when things seem like there's no resolve in it, or there's, it's so hard that, they're there to prop you back up and just go, look what you've done, look what you've created, you've done this, you've done that. This is another hurdle that you've got to go along. A lot of successful people. One of the ones that comes to mind is Andy Frisella from First Form. Huge company now. But if you look at his story, they struggled for 6 years or 8 years in a garage out the back of their, I think their storefront was their garage, and they lived out the back, him and his brother. He talks about it all the time, $500 a week or something that him and his brother lived off for years and years. Now they're worth hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions. Nothing comes easy. It's always hard, if not everyone would be doing it.
Does fear get in the way of backing yourself and going for what you want in life? Are you afraid of the unknown? Betting on yourself and leaning into uncertainty often leads to finding out who you really are. It's where you grow and become your most authentic self. In this episode, we discuss societal expectations that are placed on men and the impact vulnerability and self-expression has on your mental health and your ability to build the life you want. Welcome to Move Your Mind, where we uncover why you are holding yourself back from getting the life you want and what to do about it. With the help from high-achieving guests and experts in behavioural science, personal development, and the health and wellness space. Join us if you're ready to move out of your own way toward your ideal self. I'm your host, Nick Brax, and I've been working in the health and wellness space for the last 15 years, helping people find direction and gain the courage to take control of their life. My mission is simple: to help you learn everything that I wish I knew so you can become your ideal self. Lacking guidance, I spent the majority of my youth feeling lost and disempowered, which led to depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, and substance abuse. Looking back, I didn't have the vocabulary to communicate what I was experiencing. And as a man, I didn't resonate with the emotional language used in traditional therapy. I didn't need to talk about my feelings. I needed tangible solutions to guide me toward building a life I was proud of. If you can relate, then this podcast is for you. In this episode, Nathan Grant and myself highlight the societal stigma surrounding men's mental health, while he shares his story of betting on himself to follow his own path, and how this not only led to profound personal growth, but ultimately the life of his dreams. If you feel like you're holding yourself back from the life you want, then make sure to stay tuned. Nathan, thank you so much for making the time to come on the podcast.
No worries. Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
I really appreciate it. So I might just jump straight in. Can you give our listeners a background on yourself and how you came to be doing what you're now doing?
Yeah, so just the quick version would kind of be I was a tradie, so I was a builder, a carpenter by trade, probably since I was 20. So that was kind of like my whole life and what I thought my life would always be, until it was 2020. I went to a fitness camp, and there was kind of invite only, 5 people, and they were all PTs other than myself. That was just a tradie. Pretty broken from sport and work, and everyone was squatting and I just couldn't squat. I broke my ankle when I was 11 and it's pretty much fused, so I've got no ankle flexion, which makes it just really hard for me to squat. Every time I did squat, I was kind of like just flexing the bottom of my back and kind of injuring myself, so I never did. Got to the camp, kind of got embarrassed because they looked at my legs and they're just like, you've never squatted before. And I was a bit isolated, to be honest. It was really hard for the first 3 days of the camp. I kind of didn't really do anything. They were working out twice a day. I was kind of just stuck in the corner doing nothing, and kind of actually I taught myself how to juggle just because I was sitting in the corner so long. And at the end of the 3rd day, the trainer said, why don't you go over there, we're on a farm. He said, why don't you just go and get a couple of pieces of timber, throw them underneath your feet and see how that feels underneath your heel. So I did one, it was all right, wasn't that good. Did a second one and it was really good. So then at the end of the trip, I kind of said to the trainer, look, if you want me to, I could probably, because you have these high profile people that come, I could probably go back to work and just build something or get someone to build something so it's a little bit more professional, looks a little bit better. And he said, yeah, why not? So I did. Fast forward now, he liked it. the four other guys on the camp said, can you make us one? We made one. I didn't have any social media at the time. I was just, like I said, just a tradie. They posted about it, and then before you know it, I was getting text messages on my cell from people in America and France and all these people that were asking if I could build them a board. And this is while I was still like full-time work. So I kind of persisted in doing that until it got to a stage where we just didn't know who was paying us, because it was just like they were sending money to it because we didn't have a website, and we're just like, well, whose deposit is this and who is this? And had just this little black book, and we were up every night looking at that. And then it was kind of grew a little bit more. It was just consuming my weekends, which was like pretty special to me because it was just all about my kids on the weekend. So once we did that and started, like I said, I think we did France, the US, Switzerland, Netherlands, all with like kind of like no real webs. We didn't have a website. We were just packing them in bubble wrap and sending them across the world. I said to my wife, why don't we give it a go? And she's like, give what a go? I said, and turn this into a business. And she said, I don't know. We had 3 kids, private school, and we just moved states from Sydney to Brisbane. So we didn't really have any connections up here or know anyone. And she thought it was super risky, but I'm like, well, if we don't give it a go, we'll never know. And we're just the right place at the right time, and skyrocketed. And I think nearly 70,000 units later, 3 years later, here we are.
Wow. What a story. What a story.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
I love that. Yeah. And it came about organically. And I think it's a lot of the best businesses do come about that way, where you're not necessarily meaning for it to be anything specific. You just let it sort of evolve in its own way. So it's so interesting.
Yeah, we didn't even have a business name. We didn't have a business name, a logo. Like, we're not business orientated people. My parents aren't from business. Like, we genuinely did just stumble across it, and we're in the right place at the right time. And then it just exploded in the US. NBA, NFL, NHL. We're pretty much in all them teams with some of the biggest players using our equipment. And that's just kind of, most people still think that we're a US based company, which is fine by me. Pretty much are with the warehouse that we've got there. But yeah, most people don't know that we're still over here in Australia, or we're based here in Australia.
Yeah, and this has all been in a 3-year period, you're saying?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Rapid growth. So
yeah, I think with that, the challenges come. I think we did grow too quick. It was, I think at one stage we got to about 2,000 orders behind. So it was 16, 18 hours a day. And just remember when I first started the business and we did start the website, I was making these on my driveway. So kind of ones that we sent to like LeBron James, the Lakers, the Cavaliers, they all bought boards off us when we're building them on our driveway. And then we moved into a warehouse in the January, and then by February, the warehouse was too small. We thought the warehouse was too big when we first got it. So we needed a second warehouse.
Yeah.
So we got that, and then we needed machines, and we hadn't been in business long enough where we couldn't get finance. So we had to like finance it all ourselves. So kind of like we grew so quick that we did what we had to do to keep the business going. But at the same time, it was probably detrimental to like our long-term growth, not knowing websites, SEO, like all the kind of stuff that we needed to know. We didn't have time to learn any of that. It was just go.
Yeah, you literally would have had no time because you're thrown completely in the deep end. Like you're saying, not having that previous experience in business, you're going to have to just be reacting and trying to keep up at that point. So
Well,
it's crazy.
Being on the other side of the world, we didn't know kind of like what options we had. And I kind of never ever wanted to go down the manufacturing in China route, just because I didn't feel like I was in control of it. It was, I just felt like I'd love to have my hands on it and control of it. So, originally, like when we're sending these boards to America, we would just send them direct to the customer from here. So it was like express air freight. So you can imagine the cost of like, I think one unit was like $70 to send, and sold like,
oh, wow. Yeah.
Probably sent 50, 60,000 units to the US. So, the freight bill was huge, but at the same time, we didn't really know any different, and we were still making, we were making decent money. We weren't obviously now we know that we could have been making a lot more, but so like now it's kind of progressed into, manufacturing is a lot more dialed in over here. We still manufacture here in Australia, and we just fill up containers and just send them to the US. So then we just distribute them from our warehouse in Ohio. So yeah, it's a lot different now, and it's a lot better now. But they're just the things that we had to learn over time. But unfortunately for us, we kind of didn't really have time to learn all this. We had to just learn it as we're going, and we made so many mistakes along the way. But I guess that's probably just how you learn to grow and make the business better.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, please click the subscribe button, leave a like or comment, share with your friends, and follow me on Instagram at NickBrax. I really appreciate your ongoing support. I think it is, it's trial by fire, and I think in life it really is the best way to learn, to be, sort of thrown in the deep end, and just, you learn so much more by doing something than just reading a book. But I can imagine that would be so tough. Like, how was that experience for you, having to just be, keeping up with this business, absorbing all this information, trying to learn, work out how to make it all run and grow? And that learning curve must have just been incredibly taxing on you.
Yeah, there's really like extreme highs, and there's extreme lows, or like extreme self-doubt, in a sense of like, do I really know what I'm doing here? Like, is this what we should be doing? And there's just a massive sense of loneliness in business. And I guess that's kind of like, we'll probably talk about and touch on it further in the discussion, but it's kind of where I want my focus to go, kind of like after this business, or, if I get this business to a stage we want, and we get maybe someone to invest and take a percentage off our hands, kind of want to go into like a mentoring role and be there for, like, there's always people that are there for these people that are making millions of dollars. But for these people that just want to give it a crack and really want to give business a try, there's no one really there. You don't know what solicitor to use, what accountant to use. It just feels like such a lonely road, like how to set up a website. And you don't have unlimited funds, right? So it's just like, you're just learning like all these things. I think we're on our fourth website now. It probably costs us so much money in the long run, but like, I think you can still only always just focus on your journey. But it becomes immensely hard when you've got everything riding on the line, and you've got your kids depending on it, your livelihood. It pays for your house, it pays for everything that's done. If it fails, like, you feel like you're going to be this big failure. So, but then when it's really good, you kind of feel like, you don't feel like a fraud, but you're just like, do I really belong here? Because you turn over millions of dollars, but you haven't really got experience in the business world. But then you're crossing paths with, some of the people I've crossed paths with in America, these people that we never have thought in our lifetime that we would have crossed paths with. Like just the other day when I was in LA, we got tickets. The players gave us tickets to the Lakers game, and we're sitting like, I think 8th row back behind the players at the Lakers game. Like,
Amazing,
3 years ago, 4 years ago, I would never have dreamed of doing that. But you meet all these people, and then and then you start questioning yourself again, and just going like, do I really belong? But after a while, and hearing people and talking to people, you're like, yeah, I do belong. Like, we've created something really special, and we've worked really hard for it. And that self-doubt ends up going away, and things end up going good. And then the same thing is that when it's time for the business to grow, or it's time to make a hard decision, then that self-doubt comes back again and just goes, so it's that constant juggling of, it's good, but then there's that self-doubt. So it's hard.
Yeah, and a really good point that you bring up, the mental side of running your own business. Life's hard enough in general with our keeping mentally strong, resilience, and all that kind of thing. But like you're saying, when you've got that much on the line, even if you don't have, like in your situation, having kids to support, even if it's just you leaving your job and you've got no one but yourself to support, even then it's really hard because the uncertainty. What do I do? Where do I go? What steps do I take? How have you pushed yourself to keep going when you've had the downtimes?
For me and my journey, it's kind of, I nearly think to myself, like, I don't have another option now. Like, my career was building before, and it was like, if this didn't happen in the first 3 to 6 months, I could kind of go back to building. I've kind of been out of it long enough now where it's like, I don't really have any contacts. I don't really have any in the game anymore. So I just try and remind myself that this is it. Like, this is what we've got. I've always been a strong believer of, if you work harder than anyone and you stay true to yourself and you stay true to your niche, and you put in the work, eventually it will pay off. And the other big thing about being around some people in America is, I think you become a product of, like, probably the closest 4 or 5 people you spend your time with. You end up being a product of the people you surround yourself with. So always try and surround myself with positive, like-minded people that are, want to be on a journey or on their own journey or want to be part of our journey, to make that self-belief. But you've got to have a good network around you that, when things seem like there's no resolve in it, or there's, it's so hard that, they're there to prop you back up and just go, like, look what you've done, look what you've created, you've done this, you've done that. This is another hurdle that you've got to go along. It's just like talking to bit like-minded business people that have probably pretty much been through the same thing. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think I listen to a lot of podcasts. I've met a lot of successful people. One of the ones that comes to mind is Andy Frisella from First Form. Huge company now. But if you look at his story, I mean, like, they struggled for like 6 years or 8 years in a garage out the back of their, I think their storefront was their garage, and they lived out the back, him and his brother. He talks about it all the time, $500 a week or something that him and his brother lived off for years and years. And now they're worth hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions. So nothing comes easy. It's always hard, if not everyone would be doing it. But at the same time, you just got to remind yourself that, or for me anyway, I remind myself that it's just like, this is all I've got. Like, and it's mainly for my kids and my family. It's just like, I look at them and I'm just like, I have no other option. When times are hard, you're like, oh, it's just like, but you got to get up, you got to chase it, and you got to do the work. And that's how I get rid of the self-doubt and the hard times.
Yeah, and that's confronting, but I think it is important to have that mindset you're talking about there. I know with myself, probably about 6-7 years ago, when I had sort of found the path I was going to stay on and commit to, similar thing to what you were talking about then. I had, sort of tried some other things. I had a different career that I'd left, and I got to a point where I was struggling, but then I looked at the situation and thought, you know what, I don't have any other thing there's no other options here. I'm making this work. I don't want to even have a backup plan now. And it's confronting, but then it makes you actually push and just stay true to your path. I think if you give yourself different options, or you give yourself a get out of jail free card, you won't put in that extra effort to get the result that you need to get.
Yeah, you don't commit, right? I think it's like when your back's up against the wall, you truly find out like what type of person you are. And there's the person that'd be like, yeah, this is too hard, I'm just going to go back to what I know. Or there's the people who just like, no, this is the decision I make. This is the work I'm going to put in, and this is the result that I want, and this is the result I won't stop until I get this result. And a lot of them successful people that I talk about, Grant Cardone, and there's so many that we've spoken to in the podcast. If you speak to like 90% of them, the first or second time they tried it never worked, but they always persisted and found a way until it worked. And I think that's super important to know that we've been lucky enough that it was the first time, but it's always something that I remind myself that it's just like, and when you went back to about like what have we learned and how you make mistakes and that's how you learn, it's just like, well, yeah, I've made plenty of mistakes, but I've learned, and that I know that in the back of my mind that if something did go wrong and this for some reason didn't work in the future, then I could go back and over all the learnings I've learned, I could apply them to something else and I could make it work. So I still have that mindset that it will still always work. Sometimes it might not be this one, it might not be the first time, or the second, it might be the third time, it might be the second time. But I think if you get in that mindset and you truly want to do that, and you just stick to your lane, I think you can. It sounds a bit cliche because you hear so many people say it, but I think if you want it bad enough and you put in enough work, I think there's another guy online, but he's like, no one beats me. He just says, no one beats me. I'm the first one up. I'm the first one doing my stuff, and I'm the last one doing my stuff. He goes, and for that, I'll always be the best. So, yeah, I think something like that is a good point to live off.
Absolutely, and not comparing yourself to other people, because we often can sit there and see these successful people, and you might be doing your own startup and struggling, or you might have failed at 2 different startups and be doing your third one, but you're not realizing what all of these people that are successful went through, like you're saying, to get there. And you're just seeing the sort of the success, but they might have been through 15 years of struggling. So it's just, and everyone's journey is different, but yeah, we need to remind ourselves that.
150%. Like I can't even compare myself now to what I was 3 years ago. I'm not the same person. I've learned way more, and I've been through way more. So it's always a progressive journey. Like you could always be better. But that's why I like podcasts so much. Is like you can get so much off podcasts. You can dive down into people and see like where their journey started and where they began. And like I use it for motivation because I'm like, they started where I did. I probably got like a little bit luckier and I got a better start. But at the same time, like, look where they are now. They had this really rough start, and that's, I think, the other side about podcasts is if I can just share my story and what I've been through, like their stories that I listen to help me nearly every day because I'm just listening to them every day. So if someone
Yeah.
can hear my story and it just resonates with one person, then I think we're winning. And if everyone shares that message and that, then we just, one person helps another one helps another, and that's what I like about being in America so much. There's so many people that just want to help, that truly just enjoy seeing you have a go and trying and not putting yourself out there. That's really cool. So that's why I spend most of my time over there.
I think that's such a good, so true. And I've lived over here for 3 years, and that's probably the biggest part I've noticed living here. And exactly what you're saying, where Australia can have a little bit of a tall poppy syndrome, whereas over here people want to see others succeed, and there's not that mentality where they judge you or think that it's crass to want to be bold and try and aim for whatever it is you're trying to achieve and talk about it and ask for help and go and do that sort of thing. And it is so important because, as you're talking about before, a lot of people don't have those mentors. They don't ask for their help. A big part of this podcast that I do is we talk about, a big part of our audience is men, and men often have mental health issues because they have a big ego. They feel like it's not acceptable to show vulnerability, to ask for help, to go and get that support, and that will come at your own detriment. So people really need to learn that it's so important. No one can do it alone, and you're only going to disservice yourself if you don't have those people around you and go and find people that can help you.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why like this is pretty important to me, because right at the start of my journey, something I didn't touch on at the start is that I had a huge mental health battle, and it's kind of what transitioned us into business, to be honest. And it was, I was on the building site. I'd been there for so long with the same company for so many years, and they were the ones that actually brought me up interstate. So when we moved interstate, we started going through COVID. I didn't have any family up here. Like I didn't have any of like my usual network and society around me, and started to struggle big time. And then I kind of had this on the side, like I said, when people just kind of, we didn't have a website, but people were texting, and I was kind of doing bits and bits, and it was kind of pulling me away from everything I always knew in my life that supported my family and everything. But at the same time, I was like, well, this can kind of give me the lifestyle that I kind of want, and that's spending more time with my family, not missing out. Like the building industry over here is long hours. Like, I was in management, so it's like 14 to 16 hours a day. I'd be up at 4 a.m. I'd get home at 7 p.m. I'd see the kids for 10 or 15 minutes before they go to bed because they're just young, and then that'd be it. And then school can't, like swimming events, running events, like any of them events at school, I would miss because I had to be at work. So kind of for me, but that's all I knew, and it provided a lifestyle of a roof over our head, a nice car that we drive, holidays when we wanted to go on holidays, and so it provided for that. But at the same time, I was kind of like losing my identity there, and then I had this other thing on the side, thinking, well, this might be my ticket out, but at the same time, I don't really know it, and I could just fail and lose everything I've worked so hard for. So I had this really big mental battle, and then kind of just never really talked to anyone about it at the start, and kind of just sunk into depression, and until it got to a stage where, I rang my wife and just let it all out. And she's like, wow, I didn't know this was really going on. And it's kind of this whole, I think Australia's a lot worse at it. It's just like, men don't get depressed. Men don't talk about their feelings. Men don't express how they feel about certain things. They just keep it in, and they got to work. They got to provide for the family, and that's what they do. But until I spoke to my wife about it, and then obviously went to counselling and did all that, I kind of did a lot of self work on myself. And then I just always say I was lucky that I had her support me, and she was very, very supportive once I said that this is what I wanted to do. And it was more, well, if we do it and it fails, like, don't worry, like you've always provided for us, like we've always worked together and we've always achieved what we needed to. We'll achieve it again. It will just be in a different path. So that was kind of the clarity that I needed. But it was a good, I'd say 4 month to 5 month journey of like serious, 2 sessions a week, talking to somebody else, someone that was very neutral. That kind of got me out of it. But to the extent where I couldn't sleep, like my anxiety, there was a lot of stuff. So I wake up every night. I was just in a book, just writing everything that was going through my mind, which like really really helped. But yeah, I took a lot of positives out of that to then run a business, and then when times are tough, not to let yourself sink back into that. So I think once you realise that that's what went on, and I had I guess the courage to be able to speak out about it, then it makes it a lot easier now that if I'm going through a hard time in business, the first thing I'm like, I don't let it ever get to the stage that it got to before. It's more, hey, my feelings are this is what I'm feeling. My brother, my family, and my wife especially know exactly how I feel nearly every day. So once I'm talking about that kind of stuff, it's people know I don't hold it in. But it's something I'm very very passionate about, because in the building industry over here, it's something that's very like that doesn't happen, right? Like men don't do that. We go to work, we have a few beers after work, and then we go back to work the next day. We never talk about our feelings. We just go and work and have beers, and that's it.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. I think all the examples you've said in that are so important. Having those people around you. I've got the same thing, where initially when I was younger, I went through pretty deep state of depression and was really struggled to get out of it. Wasn't talking to people about it, and then when I went through a similar sort of thing you went through, and when I came out of it, that's why I really wanted to do this podcast, to talk about it, to raise awareness, because you just realize I can't, it's like shocking that so many other people are going through that same thing and not getting the help. Some of them aren't coming out of it. And, like in your example here, you're able to give inspiration to so many other people that might be stuck in a job that they're wanting to leave because they've got some other dream, but they're too scared to do it. And a lot of people never leave. And,
Yep.
You need to have that support around you to be able to do it, because it is a confronting thing to do. And, I've worked in, construction a lot, doing mental health talks, and like you're saying there, it is like beyond bad how backwards it is with the culture. Men don't talk about it. Suicide rates are, I can't remember the figure, but significantly higher than
Huge.
you know
Yeah,
yeah
I lost like a really close friend in construction to suicide. But again, I kind of like don't want to blow smoke and mirrors over like the business, and it's just like, oh, okay, cool, it's successful. But it's like the reason I want to work so hard is, and that's what I said to you before, is it's kind of like I want to get it to a stage where it's like, okay, cool, like my family's looked after, my life's looked after. Now, who can I help, and what can I do to help others?
yeah
And it's to use my knowledge and my profile to be able to help them. And it has been something that I'd always want to go back to in the construction industry, because I think you get a lot of these companies that have this "Are you okay?" day, and this "Oh, we donated this much money," and it's like all these these lovely flowers and this lovely picture, but it's not that, because they only have that on that one day, and then after that they don't care. They really
no
don't. And like I was with the company for 10 years, management, like I was pretty high up, and it's just like, you hear the discussions they have, and it's just like they're not worried about the money they raise. They're worried about shutting the site down for a day because of the productivity they're going to lose. But you're like, we're losing guys that have families, and that's the reality of the situation. Because it's all about work, drink. Don't discuss your problems. We just drink and we joke about it, and then we go back to work, and it just compiles the problem day after day after day until it gets so bad. And like I said, I was lucky that I had my wife, and I had that support there, and we have an awesome relationship. But it took me years to be able to talk about it. Whereas like now, it's just like, well, once I have talked about it, like I know how much better it makes me feel. Then it's just like, well, cool. If I ever find myself like the slightest bit feeling that way, it's just like, well, she can pick up on it anyway. But
yeah
the first thing we do is we talk about it. And I'm lucky enough that she works in the business with me, so we're
yeah
around each other 24/7, so she can pick up on it a lot more. But it's a real thing. America's a little bit different with it, I think. But Australia, again, tall poppy syndrome, yes, through business, but like around the stigma of men, there's still that stigma. I mean, my dad's a perfect example, mate. Like he's 100%. You are not depressed. You don't, and I'm like, I am. I'm going through it. It's okay to go through it. And most probably he has been in his life, but from that generation, he's 72 now. From that generation, it was men don't talk about feelings, men don't cry, men don't do this. They go out, they work, and they provide for the family, and that's it. So I think the big picture would be, once you can get through that generational thing, and try and get out there, then we can start helping a lot of people. But I just don't think about the masses. I just think that if we could just have a discussion around it and just helps one person, that's where it all starts. And then that person can kind of have an experience like you did or I did. Then they will have the confidence to share their story, and then that's where we've got to lead to. That if everyone shares their story, then it just helps one person at a time. But 1+1+1+1 ends up being huge, rather than trying to affect the masses and talking to 10,000 people at once. I just think that's what I try to do anyway. Business orientated, or anything like that. It's always like a one-on-one thing. So I'm like, if I can make as much positive impact in this person's life, they're going to take it away, and if it helps them, they're then going to share the same story with someone else, and that's where we're going to win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I couldn't agree more. And just having that support. I'm similar to you, where I really lucky with my partner, where she's working with me most of the time, and I can talk to her about things and have that support. And I wouldn't be able to do the stuff that I'm doing if I didn't have that. And like we're saying, there's so many people don't. And in this, construction industry, you exactly like you said, that's what I witnessed when I was working in there. That it would sort of almost be like ticking a box. Let's get this person in to go and do a talk, but then it's like, what's being done outside of this? And I've seen so many different, like you were saying there, if one person hears that message. I mean, I did a talk one time where we had someone come up to us at the end of the session saying they had a plan to end their life, and they were able to actually go and get help, and because they just they needed to hear something, and then this person ended up getting rehabilitated, sharing their story, helping other people, and exactly as you said. So I think we need men to share those stories so we can break down that stigma that our parents' generation has had drummed into them. It's got to end at some point.
Just someone that's relatable, so, and it's not that we're not relatable, but in that scenario, that guy that got rehabilitated, that was on the construction site, like when he goes and tells his story, it resonates with them people, because they kind of feel like he's one of them, and then it's just like, well, then I kind of feel comfortable talking to someone like that, rather than someone turns up and they're from a company that comes out to do a talk on depression or men's suicide or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden, it's like it's not relatable. It's just like you said, it's just the company ticking the box. Oh yeah, we had someone come out speak to us about suicide and depression. Cool, tick the box, on we go with work, and that's that. So I just think it's got to be relatable, and that's why I said literally I just went down and did a similar talk, not about depression but business and how I could change people's lives at a TAFE over here with young students in Year 12, and they said it was so good because they've continually had business people in, but it's always been someone that's kind of not relatable to the kids. So they said the kids was such on a high when we left, they asked us to go back and do a second presentation. So we did. We went back, and I think out of there's probably like 50 kids each presentation, and out of that we've probably got 8 or 9 kids that are talking to us about business, and like we're just helping them. I'm not making any money out of it. I'm just there to help them. But just like they'll send me a text and be like, hey, what do you think about this? Hey, do you know anything about this? And it's just the teachers say it's just really good that they're relatable, like you're relatable to them. So I just think that's if everyone just did a little bit and just gave back on their experience that was relatable to specific crowds, we'd be living in a much better place.
100%, mate. I couldn't agree more. So, no, thank you for being so open and sharing all of this. We have 5 closing questions that we end every episode with. So I'm going to jump into those. Nothing too crazy. First one being, what's your best childhood memory that comes to mind?
I'm massively into sport. So best childhood memory would just probably be with my grandparents and my parents at a state carnival, winning a state carnival. That'd probably be my best childhood memory.
What would you say is the biggest burden on mental health currently in society?
I think like the biggest burden, or it's just like directly what we're just talking about, is it's more a stigma around men don't talk about their feelings. it's not good to talk about. If it's that generational thing, and that's why I say I don't think we can change it as a whole. We have to start as a one-to-one, and then get people like myself and yourself and the people we help then talking about it, and it just spreads like that, rather than someone standing up and presenting. It's good to hear the statistics and it's good to hear everything about it, but at the same time, people just kind of hear it like it's everyday news at the moment, where it's like, where if we're doing this stuff and we're talking and we're kind of like touching people and we're kind of giving them a touching feeling and it's resonating with them, then that's when we win. And that's when I get passionate about it. When you can see in someone's eyes when you're having a discussion with them and you know that it's hitting the point. And like I said, it could be about depression, it could be about anything. But as soon as they find you relatable to them, they then let their guard down and talk about what they need to talk about.
Exactly. Well, on that note, what would you say it means to be a man? We've talked about sort of like traditionally men have been taught that to be a man, it means you got to push on, you got to, do all the opposite of what we're talking about, not show vulnerability and do all these things. What would you say it actually means to be a man?
I'd be more say to be a man. I think like to show your vulnerability, to express your emotions when you need to express your emotions. I mean, you still have the feeling of like, you protect your wife, you protect your kids. Like, I think every man still has that feeling. But I think to be a man for me is to still have all that, but then to be able to talk about what I need to talk about when I need to talk about it. Because reality is, if we don't talk about what we need to, we become broken, like me and you have been. And when you are broken, you're not protecting your kids, you're not protecting your wife, you're not doing all the stuff that you want to do anyway. So, but it's hard to say, because if I just stand up in front of a heap of men and say that, they just laugh and just go, oh, whatever, So everyone's horses. If you had asked me before I went through my thing, I would have said the same thing. I said, oh, look at this guy, So I think it's when it touches you, or someone that it's touched, and then you see what they've been through and what they've become, then it kind of becomes real, So I think it's like a big difference in my brother's life since I've gone through it. He will now say, yeah, he reckons he struggled with depression, whereas before he'd be just like, yeah, no. But you watch my journey and seeing what I was kind of going through, and then starts expressing his feelings. Goes, oh, maybe I was in this hole. So, that'd be my answer.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's funny the extremes of it, because you sort of, when you haven't gone through that or made that change, you instantly think, oh, well, if I'm going to have to show vulnerability and weakness and all these different things, that means I'm not going to be as strong and I'm probably going to let people down and whatever else. But exactly like you said, it's actually the opposite. It's not changing any of those core things. You still got to be resilient. You still got to provide for your family. You still got to, do all of these different things, but also you're just adding extra things to what you also, extra tools to your belt, really, at the end of the day.
It makes you, it honestly makes you better. Like once you kind of feel that relief and you know what you can do and you're very dialed in, it makes you way better. And that's what I said, when you have got that over your head and say you are slipping into it and you're drinking and you're not doing all that, you're in that much of a routine that you're not truly doing what you think you were doing anyway. Like I said, like providing for your family and doing all that, because you kind of like just live in this false expectations of what you want or what you think you want in life anyway. So, yeah, I think it's super important to be able to express your emotions and your vulnerabilities and just be out there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. What would you say is your personal definition of happiness?
I said this yesterday. I said to my wife. What did I say? A lot of people say if I have money, I'll be happy.
Yeah,
But actually, yes, we got really, really bad weather over here at the moment. It was like I went home at 5:00 and we're at this new house on the water, and it's pouring down rain, like the biggest storms. And I went outside. I said to my son, "Do you want to go fishing?" And he's like, "Now?" I go, "Yeah." It's raining. I go, "Yeah, why not? Let's go out in the rain." So we went out on the pontoon, and the girls were out, and we're all just drenched. And my wife's taking photos from in the house and videos. And I just said, I'm the richest man right now. Like it was just the best memory. And I just happiness and family can make you so rich in life. Like, that's all you need. And I think, like, again, if we can just spread that message about just, it doesn't have to be about how much you've got in your wallet or what you've got or what car you drive or what house you live in. And it's really hard to get to that stage. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want to say it in a sense that people go, oh, look at this guy. He's been a little bit successful in business and he's trying to spread this message. It's like, no. It's like, I don't have every day like that, but to me, when I do have days like that, I look back at it and go, oh, man, like, I'm so rich in life. Like, I can't get any more than that. It's just, it's out in the rain. The kids will laugh and the wife was happy. Everyone's happy. It's not like that every day. It's not a perfect picture, but if you can just keep their memories, then I think when the times are hard, you just look back at them and just go, okay, cool. Let's just time out. And that's what we try to do in the business when it's super hard and my wife knows that I'm getting down. She always says, like, time out. I'm always, I've got more work to do. No, time out. Let's go do something. Let's go chill out. Let's zone out. So, yeah, I think probably didn't answer your question directly, but.
No, you did. You did.
That's what it is for me. I think making memories and having time, because time, you never get the time back, man, so money's money, but I can never get time back. So
no, I think you answered the question very well. Well, that's the thing, we can make more money. Money comes and goes. You can make more. You don't get time back, and it's not saying that we shouldn't try and be successful, but like you're saying, you realize at a certain point that the important things in life are the simple things: family, friends, doing things that you really care about, giving back. And we can get caught up in trying to chase all of these other things to fill a hole, but it will never fill it. No amount of money is going to fill that hole. You've got to do the work on yourself to get there. So it's a really good point.
Not there. There's so many people I know, mate, believe me, and I know it sounds cliche again, but there's so many people I know that have got millions of dollars, millions, like tens and hundreds of millions, and they're not happy. They're not happy.
No, yeah.
Right? Like their kids don't talk to them. Like there's plenty that, they have business acquaintances, but they don't have family. They don't have proper family and friends. And I'm like, it's something that I struggle with in a little bit because it's not easy. Like I said, it's just like, I've got to make money to provide for the family. But at the same stage, I don't want the business to take away from my family life. But I know that I've got to spend enough time on the business for it to be successful. So it's, like I said, it's not easy. I'm not sitting here like some people go, oh, you don't need money to be happy. Yeah, I do. Like, you do need money to be able to get by. Yeah. But at the same token, if you're not happy and you're not true to yourself, that, like, no amount of money or anything will ever make you happy. So you got to find that inside, find what's right inside and what's true to you, and then you'll grow from there.
Exactly, and you can't go wrong. If you're aware of that, you're going to make decisions according to that. And I've seen the same thing. I've met people that have hundreds of millions, and they're the unhappiest. Not all of them. Some of them actually amazing people, but some I've met are just the most miserable people I've ever met. And drug problems. They don't have anyone. They don't have any family. They don't have any people that actually care about them. Everyone around them's on the payroll, and it's just it's confronting to see, and it makes you realize, okay, like, that's not the answer. Yes, strive for these things, but you got to. Yeah, it's all comes down to balance, like you're talking about. Really, I think that's the thing.
Yeah, and it's hard to find it, because if it was easy to find it, everyone would be doing it, right? So that's why I always pinpoint that out. Is it's just like, it's really, really hard to find. And if someone had the magical theory of that's how you get there, I mean, talk about money, they'd be probably one of the richest people around, because everyone wants that. But it's just like, it doesn't come easy, and it's work. I think my biggest thing is it's work every day. Like, it's you've got to work every day, and being depressed and being in depression, if you let it slide, this is my thing anyway, for me, if I let it slide and it's just 1 week after 1 week compounds into a week, into a month, into 2-3 months, then I'm just on this slippery slope. Yeah. So it's just like, it's kind of like daily constant work on myself that makes me feel like I'm good enough to be able to do what I need to do for the people that I love.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you put that super well. So final one here, what are you most proud of?
I'm probably most proud of just my journey, to be honest, over the last, probably 3 to 5 years. I've achieved a lot. We've kind of, me and my wife have, created a company that's, successful enough anyway. We're not worth hundreds of millions of dollars, but it's created a life that I'm happy with. it got me out of the life that I probably thought I was happy with and that I was content with. That probably would have led me to a heap of drama if I had stayed there. But being like, it's really hard, right? Because a lot of my friends and acquaintances are still in construction, and I find the hardest thing I find is that I can see what I was going through there in exactly the same boat. But you can't push too hard, because if I push too hard, they go, "Oh, you just want to do that because you think you're successful now because you're not in the construction industry and you've got a business." And I'm like, I don't want it to come across like that, and I never have that feeling. But now that I'm out, I can see what I was like. But when I was in there, it was very, very hard for me to see what I was like. So the biggest thing I'm proud about is like I'm kind of not in that circle anymore. I had enough willpower to, bring everything out, thanks to my wife mostly. But I had enough willpower to get out of that and to actually give myself to this business 100% and try it. And now I'm providing for the family, and I get to do, like I said to you the other day, today, I'm rich in life. Like I get to see everything. I don't miss a thing with them. I drop them to school. I pick them up from school. I spend so much time with them, and I ask them every day, like, how much better is it now? And they're just like, it's awesome, Dad. Don't get me wrong. I'm in America a lot of the time, and there's stuff that I have to do to sacrifice. But at the same time, it's on my terms. I choose when I go, so I don't miss a birthday or I don't miss anything. So that's what I'm probably most proud of, is that I pulled myself out of something that I thought I'd always be in, to then run a successful business and be able to provide for my family and spend, such quality time with them.
Love it. Well, thank you for sharing all of this, mate. Where can our listeners go if they want to check out the business?
I'm on Instagram, just at Slamboard Guy. I think we're Slamboard Guy Official on YouTube. And yeah, just our website's just slamboardguy.com.
Easy. Well, we'll have that in the show notes. And yeah, Nathan, love chatting to you, mate. Thank you so much for being so open, and super inspiring story. Love what you're doing, and we'll have to stay in touch.
Yeah, no problems. And just on a quick note, if there's anyone that ever listens to this and wants to reach out, I just gave him my details. More than happy. I'm the one that answers all our social media and our inquiries and that. So just like, if there's anyone, like I said, if I can ever help one person off doing one of these podcasts, then I'll take it as a win. So that's awesome.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, mate. Appreciate your time.
Mate, thanks for having us.
Thank you, Nathan Grant, for joining me today and offering your insights. And thank you for listening. I would love to hear your thoughts on the episode and any suggestions for topics you'd like to hear about. Feel free to leave a comment and send a DM. Your feedback is always appreciated. Please don't forget to click the subscribe button, leave a like or comment, share with your friends, and follow me on Instagram. It really makes a difference. Thank you so much.